Welcome to Reddit After Hours. This is r/RelationshipAdvice, where OP's husband threatens to leave her if she doesn't quit her side hustle teaching yoga. Our first Reddit post comes from Evelyn PM, titled, "My husband just gave me an ultimatum. Quit my side hustle teaching yoga or he's leaving our marriage. I got married a year and a half ago to the most incredible person. I had just gotten out of a 6-year relationship. We were friends for a few months, and it quickly became every bit of the classic, when you know, for the both of us. Within 3 months, we had bought our first home. We got engaged after 9 months, and then got married almost a year to the day from our engagement, with a dream destination wedding in Greece. We've been together for 3+ years now. It's important to know that we are a multicultural marriage. My husband is Hindu Punjabi. He immigrated from India over a decade ago, and I'm white American. Greece was an equidistant travel for both of our families, who get along famously and have really embraced our blending cultures. We have a lot of family support on both sides. When we got married, we were on the same page about what we expected from each other and what we wanted. Our red lines were physical violence and cheating. We agreed that everything else was figure-outable. One of those things that we agreed on was fitness. Early in our relationship, we worked out together constantly, went on runs, etc., and we talked often about our mutual desire to continue to cultivate a long, healthy life together. However, a few differences to note. He grew up in a household with very traditional gender roles in India. His father was very verbally abusive to his mother. He would go days with giving her the silent treatment. My husband has been open about how witnessing this has affected him growing up. His parents have worked it out over time, but his mom has shared openly about this dynamic with me. His father rarely has to lift a finger at home, but worked very hard to provide for the family in a very traditional Indian culture. My husband has 2 sisters who both take a more modern approach to their relationships, and that seems to be accepted within the family. My parents split responsibilities 50-50 as often as possible. They both worked full-time, and they've always been best friends, and I rarely have ever seen them argue. My husband is easily triggered and very reactionary. He works on it in his own ways, but refuses to try individual therapy. Shortly after we got together, we moved to a new state for his job about an hour north of the city where we met, and we had lots of friends. He worked a mid-shift at the time and wasn't getting home until 1 to 3 a.m. the first year of us living in this new state. The hour drive made it even harder to see friends regularly, and I was home alone all the time. Integrative nutrition and movement gave me my life back, especially a few years ago after being diagnosed with a chronic illness. So, after about a year of living in our new state, I found a local fitness studio and started taking classes to tone up for our wedding and meet some new friends. My husband has had on and off issues with marijuana. He's a very all or nothing kind of person. No balance when weed is in the house. So that started to creep back in just before we got married. It's a daily fight for him, and I'm here to help him through it. Every few months he relapses, he goes on a bender, and then realizes it, and it sends him into a deeper depression. Being loved by a supportive partner gave me another level of confidence. I felt like I could pursue just about anything and we'd somehow make it happen. I'd been a fitness instructor in college and had always wanted to pick it back up. So, with his late night schedule, I signed up for a yoga teacher program and started the weekend we returned from our wedding. It was every other weekend of intensive and a big time commitment, and I made it a point to try my best to nurture our free time together. I ended up loving teaching yoga. I made lifelong friends and was the first of my cohort to be offered a job right after training at the studio. Teaching at this studio is highly competitive. Usually you have to do a mentorship, but they let me get right on schedule, and I was thrilled. My husband started experiencing pretty significant job stress around this time, and honestly, a really awful boss situation. We've all been there, and started showing symptoms of high-functioning depression. In bed for both weekend days, doom scrolling and watching football, withdrawn from activities that used to make him happy, no desire to spend time with friends, and limited energy to spend time with me. His parents, my parents, and some of our friends noticed the change. Instead of a partnership, he started expressing his desire for me to act more like a stay-at-home wife. dinner on the table every night, house tidy as my main responsibility, while also working a 9 to 5 remote job from home and am the breadwinner. So it's hard to have this expectation more from a shared responsibility to solely my responsibility. All of this was building until we found out that I had an aggressive form of precancer and had to see a specialist for treatment in another state. It was about an 8-hour round trip every weekend for months. The whole thing seemed to give him purpose again, and confronted with my potential early mortality, we spent our car rides talking about our dreams and our life's goals. We dreamed up an idea to start a matcha and cold-pressed juicer camper to have a little side business together on the weekends and started moving forward with that, but as soon as I got the all clear last June, he fell right back into his depressive episode. I tried to plan small activities without putting too much on his plate. Work stress was still at an all-time high for him, of course. But after a while, he started to resent me from keeping him away from being in bed. I continued with our business plans alone, kept teaching yoga, working my 9 to 5, and holding it down for him at home, but no amount of me would help pull him out of this work-bed depression cycle. In his darker moments, he expressed that he felt like my job teaching yoga was taking away from my ability to be there for him. When I asked for specifics, he likes to tell me things like, quote, I should know, and that no matter what I did, I was somehow falling short. At this point, I had fallen in love with teaching yoga. My classes started waitlisting, helping my students gave me a passion and purpose that I had finally found real community, which was such a bright spot when there was no effort being put into our partnership at home. Our fights began to escalate, and I found myself on the receiving end of low blows, name-calling, and verbal abuse. I tried so hard to meet him where he was and stay neutral and non-reactive, but you can only be called a B-word so many times before losing it on occasion. This past November, he was promoted, and he finally had normal work hours. I switched my workout schedule at the studio to mornings so that I could be there for him when he got home at night, with the exception of one night per week. When I got offered a second class on the weekend spot on the yoga schedule, because my first class was doing so well, I wanted to accept it immediately, but made it a point to ask my husband first. He said he was okay with it, but that he also hated the idea. Over the past year of teaching, it's been so hard seeing instructor friends' husbands show up and support them. But something about this gig my husband just hates about it, and I wish he could just be supportive of me and proud, but anytime I spend at the yoga studio, which is usually 3 hours max weekly, he expresses that it takes away from him somehow. A girlfriend from the yoga studio, who he knows well and kind of thinks the same as me, came over Monday night to do a little bit of work on a series we're doing together. I cooked dinner for us all, made sure that my husband had what he needed, and after my friend left, I got in bed and gave him a hug, only to be met by the F you get away from me, followed by 48 hours of the silent treatment, despite my pleading to have a conversation. Last night, he came to me and said, it's yoga or me. You have until Sunday to quit your job teaching or I'm leaving our marriage. And I'm just gutted. I've tried to offer compromise and even offer to take a short leave of absence from teaching, but he refuses to speak to me until I, quote, make my decision on Sunday, and apparently it's all or nothing. Movement has saved my mental health. I found so much purpose through teaching. Having a student approach me to tell me they sleep better on nights that they had taken my classes, or they feel more relaxed or inspired in any way just absolutely lightens me up. I finally feel seen standing up there, and I've somehow gotten good at it. I love being of service to other people. OP, it seems like you found your passion. At this point, if your husband doesn't want to help themselves, you can only do so much to help him. Do not give up your passions for anyone. And honestly, no matter how mad I've ever been at my wife, I have never even once thought to call her the B word or swear at her or yell at her in any kind of way like that. I understand that there are cultural differences between you and him. However, he said that he hated watching his parents treat each other the way that his dad treated his mom growing up, and now he's doing the same thing to you. Don't let that be your life, OP. Maybe he is depressed. Maybe he does really need help. But at some point, you can only do so much yourself to help him before he needs to get up and actually want to help himself. Our next Reddit post is from Throra1559, titled, "My best friend slept with my cheating ex and tried to hide it. I feel like I'm in some kind of sick joke. I don't even know how to process this. The two people that I trusted the most completely betrayed me, and one of them is standing here acting like I should be happy for her. Let me back up a bit. My ex and I broke up about a year ago after I found out that he had been cheating on me for months with not just one girl. He had a whole rotation of girls. When I finally dumped his lying butt, I was shattered, but at least I had my best friend Emily to help me. She was furious at him. She called him a narcissistic butthole, swore she'd never even look in his direction again. She was the one who told me that I deserved so much better." Fast forward to last week. Emily started acting off, distant, canceling plans, taking forever to text back, and when she did, she was dry. I figured maybe she was stressed or dating someone new, but something in my gut told me that she was hiding something. Then a mutual friend casually mentioned seeing her at a bar with my ex, just the two of them, and my stomach dropped. I texted Emily immediately, "Were you with my ex the other night?" It took her hours to reply. Then she hit me with a, "Yeah, I ran into him. It was totally random, but we just caught up for a second." I called BS. At this point, I knew something was up, so I decided to do some digging. That's when I found out the real story, and not from Emily, but from someone else. Apparently, she has been seeing him for weeks. It wasn't some random run-in like she said. She had been sneaking around, sleeping with the same guy who destroyed me, also while pretending to be my friend. I was shaking with rage when I confronted her. I didn't even give her time to weasel her way out of it either. I just looked her in the eye and said, "How long have you been screwing my ex?" Her face instantly went pale. At first, she tried the fake innocent act, saying, "What are you talking about?" So I told her everything that I knew. She opened and closed her mouth like a fish, then finally sighed and said, "Well, I was going to tell you." "Oh, you were going to tell me? Really? Like when? After the honeymoon phase? After you got engaged? Or maybe when you needed a bridesmaid?" Then she hit me with a, "I know this is going to sound crazy, but he's really changed." I almost laughed. Changed? Really? The same guy who lied to my face every day for months? The same guy who swore he was faithful while texting other girls in my bed? That guy changed? I asked her if she actually gave a damn about me, about how she held me while I cried over him, about how she ranted how disgusting he was, how she swore that she would never forgive him either. And you know what she said? She said, "I do, but people make mistakes." At that point, I couldn't even look at her. I just walked out. And now she's blowing up my phone, apologizing, saying she never meant to hurt me and that she didn't plan for this to happen, that love is complicated. No, lust is complicated. Betrayal is complicated. This is just disgusting. I don't think I can ever look at her the same way again, but we've been friends since we were in preschool. This hurts so much. I don't even know how I can go on, or if I can even forgive her. How do I get the picture of them out of my mind? OP, I really think your only option is to leave them both in the past. They say the best revenge is a life well lived, and I think that's your best option here. If it were me, I don't think I could ever forgive them. And inevitably, when he does the same exact thing to her that he did to you, don't let her come crawling back. I wouldn't take the nuclear route and say I told you so and rub it in her face either. I would just leave him in the past and let him stay there. Eventually, he's going to cheat on her. So, you know what? I think they deserve each other. Our next Reddit post comes from certain ad 5385, titled, "I yelled at my husband and he told our son that I'm psychotic." Last night, my husband and I and our two kids, a toddler and a baby, went to the grocery store together. In the parking lot, my husband opened the car door for the toddler, told him to get himself in his car seat, then walked away to return the shopping cart without telling me. I was busy buckling the screaming baby into her seat, so I didn't notice until I was done that the toddler was sitting on the ground crying and scared in the middle of the parking lot by himself. Turns out the wind had blown the car door shut before he could get in, and it knocked him down. I yelled over to my husband, "What are you doing? You can't leave a toddler alone in the parking lot." This isn't the first time my husband has done this, and I have asked him several times to make sure that the kids are in a safe place, or at least to just tell me that he's leaving before walking away. So I was very upset by this. Once husband got back in the car, he was furious that I yelled. He quietly told me that I was acting like a crazy person and to not yell at him in public because it's embarrassing. I said that if our child is in danger, then I'm going to yell. My toddler asked why we were fighting, and my husband said because mommy is acting psychotic. That's when I totally lost it and started yelling at my husband that it's not psychotic to care about the safety of our children, which he clearly does not, and that he can't just assume I'm responsible for both kids at all times and walk away without saying anything at all. He just kept quietly repeating to stop yelling at him in front of the kids. It's not appropriate. And things like, "It's okay, kids, don't be scared, mommy's just a little psychotic," and "I didn't leave the toddler alone, you were right there." He was so condescending and didn't care at all about the issue that I was upset about. I've never been so angry in my entire life, and I just could not get myself under control to stop yelling. When we got home, he locked himself inside our room while I snuggled and apologized to the kids. He came down later and said, "Sorry for upsetting you," and now he's been acting like everything is fine, but I can't even look at him. Similar cycles keep repeating with us, where we're fine for long periods and then something happens and I blow up and start yelling. I know I'm not innocent here, but there are clearly deeper issues that need communicating, and I don't know how to do it right. I want to have an actual productive conversation when he gets home tonight, but what do I say? I will apologize for yelling, but I want to get to the root of the issue so it doesn't build up and explode again. OP, I'm totally on your side here. The fact that your husband is worried about you yelling at him more than your kid randomly being in the middle of a parking lot where he could get hit by a car is just beyond me. If that were me, I would be less concerned about getting yelled at and more concerned how I let my kid find himself in that position when I should have been watching him. Watching kids is a team effort, and like my wife tells me all the time, you can't give the dogs and the puppies too much credit thinking that they won't get into things that they're not supposed to because they're puppies. They don't know better. Just like kids, you have to watch them extra careful because just like dogs and puppies, they don't know any better. They rely on you to watch them to keep them out of trouble. And your husband is treating it like it's just a non-issue, like he just thinks that the kids won't get into trouble if he doesn't watch them, and thinks that you're crazy for wanting to watch them. That's a big red flag, OP. I'm not saying to leave him or anything, but you guys definitely need to talk about this and find some way to get on the same page parenting-wise so you guys can have longer periods of niceness and less exploding so you guys can be happier, for each other and for your kids. I think this would be a really good chance for you guys to engage in some type of couples counseling or parenting classes together just so you guys can maybe kind of get on the same page a little bit more as parents and understand what you guys expect out of each other a little bit more. That was Reddit After Hours, bringing you r/relationship advice. Thank you all so much for listening, and if you like these videos, like and subscribe and leave a comment down below for future Reddit subs that you'd like us to cover as we put out new Reddit videos almost every single day.